What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. And this is the start of the off-season videos, the videos that we didn't want to make this early on. But if you are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Join the squad. Lots of Leafs news and rumor content here on this channel, so make sure to stick around. I'd greatly appreciate it. But you guys can probably see the title. Some people are wondering why I'm making this video first, and it's honestly because even at the time of recording this, I feel like before I post this video that it's going to happen. I have this weird feeling that the Leafs coaching change has to happen very soon. And I'm wondering if it's going to happen basically any minute now. And that's that Sheldon Keefe could potentially be getting fired. Now, this is a tough video to make because I remember the exact moment that Sheldon Keefe became head coach. I was downstairs in my kitchen at my mom's house, and for the longest time, I was so frustrated with the Maple Leafs and how Mike Babcock was coaching them because I thought that they were much better than how they were being used. We seen Tyson Barrie being used as a defensive defenseman because Babcock didn't value the way he played. And of course, the Mitch Marner stuff and etc., etc., it just wasn't working out. And the team stopped listening to him, and they were off to a really bad start. And they hadn't won a playoff round. Like a lot of people forget, like the Leafs didn't win a playoff round with Mike Babcock either. So they announced he got fired. I ran upstairs and I filmed a video. It's on this channel. Now, at the time, we didn't know all of the stuff that was going on about Mike Babcock and how he was pretty much a terrible human being. Hopefully he's changed his life and the style of which he does things, because it wasn't just 5 or 6 stories that came out about Babcock. It was like hundreds that this guy was just a dirtbag, to be completely honest. And I was very excited to see Sheldon Keefe come in because he had been successful with the Toronto Marlies winning a championship in the AHL, and he had a previous relationship with Dubas, not just in the AHL but also in the Sioux Greyhounds. He's a younger coach. He was a guy that had a fresh perspective on how to play hockey. He was doing things differently, and I was excited to see what he could do with a Leaf team that should be excelling, and that Leaf team was underperforming. And Sheldon Keefe came in and made an immediate difference. So we're looking at records.com and his page. So when Sheldon Keefe came in March 10th, 2020, 47 games, the Leafs went 27-15-5. That's a .628 winning percentage. That team won a ton of hockey games under Sheldon Keefe. They were listening to him. They turned their season completely around, and they started playing way better. Like, people need to understand that Sheldon Keefe has made a significant positive change in this organization. And whether or not he gets fired or, if they bring him back, personally, and I hate to say this, I do think that they should let him go. I think that he should be fired. It sounds bad to say fired, but I honestly wish it was just a mutual thing where they go, okay, well, we're not going to fire you because we want this to be mutual and we don't want this to be looked at negatively, because at the end of the day, did Sheldon Keefe get out-coached at times in the playoffs? Yes. But you can't blame everything on the coach. It's been a very Leaf thing to blame the GM and the coach for the past, how many years that I've been on this planet. They go through all these different GMs and coaches like you're changing your T-shirt every day. They've just been changing and changing and changing and changing and just hoping that one sticks. And Sheldon Keefe has been pretty solid for them as a coach. But again, there's mistakes that he's made that are unacceptable, getting out-coached by, guys like Dominic Ducharme and, then consistently getting out-coached in Tampa and in Boston. And, finally getting a series win this year was fantastic. But then they just took their foot off the gas, and Sheldon Keefe was part of not being able to get this team to play and start on time, which, again, is a Babcock line. But he did a lot of positive things. And I think that everybody looks at the negative when things like this could potentially happen, but you have to also look at the positives. Because if you look at this team, like I said, that team that was like basically looking like they were going to be sellers at the deadline came in and just started winning a ton of hockey games with Sheldon Keefe. The next season, 35-14-7. The next season, 54-21-7, and then 50-21-11. Like, that team played really well under Sheldon Keefe. Like, all these seasons, he's been really good. His record as a head coach currently, 267 games, 166 wins, 71 losses, 30 OT losses. That's a .622 win percentage. That's insane. And another thing that people need to look at too, which people might think is pretty crazy, in Leafs history, Sheldon Keefe has the 6th most wins in the history of the Maple Leafs. And he did it in 4 seasons. If you look at Mike Babcock's number, in 5 years, he won 173 games, right? So that team was kind of crap when he got there. But that Leaf team under Sheldon Keefe, with another season, he would be passing Mike Babcock and be in the top 5. And if you give him, the same amount of seasons as Punch or Hap Day, Keefe is getting there with ease. He would probably become the winningest coach in Leafs history if he stuck around. Which, again, sounds crazy, but this team just isn't playing good enough under him. And I think it's time for a change in the coaching department. But it does suck to say. But another thing that I think people need to understand too is that Sheldon Keefe coached this team during the pandemic. Now, every team got coached under the pandemic, blah, blah. But there's only a select amount of coaches in the entire world that are coaching in the NHL during a pandemic. And Sheldon Keefe was one of them. He was one of the coaches. And, the bubble and all those things, like, Sheldon Keefe truly didn't get a full season with the Maple Leafs in front of a crowd for a long time. Like he's only really coached in front of a full crowd and like a normal circumstance for like just over a year and a half, something like that, right? So through the circumstances that he came into with a team that was underperforming and playing like garbage, going into a pandemic, coming out of a pandemic, and dealing with a team that should be a lot more successful, and they finally won a playoff round. Like, a lot of fans were going into these playoffs just like, please just win a round. Just win one, and that's progress. But then the way that they lost in the second round, it kind of goes from, wow, Sheldon Keefe and Kyle Dubas really did it. Like, these are the guys to do it. To, what happened? Why did we get severely outcoached? Why did this team not win? The narrative changes very quickly. So if I'm looking at this in a big picture, it took 19 years for the Maple Leafs to win a series. Sheldon Keefe can say that he was the coach when that team finally did it. But that's not good enough. He can say that he coached a team through the pandemic. That's a fantastic accomplishment, but it's not good enough. He took a team that was really, really bad under Mike Babcock and turned them into a top 3 team in the division. It's not good enough. You have to win the big one. And this Leafs team has been built to win the big one. Didn't happen. So Sheldon Keefe coming back is very tough to see happening. And I honestly think the Leafs are going to let him go. And as a fan, as just a fan, I think it's the right move. In a big picture, I think it's the right move. But I'm not going to be one of these people that's going to sit here and just criticize Sheldon Keefe all night. I want to thank Sheldon Keefe, if he truly does get fired, for changing this team. Like, as a Leaf fan watching those Babcock games, it was tough. It was really tough because towards the end of Babcock's tenure with the Leafs, he was an awful coach. His way of doing things was not the way of doing things now. And I think with the experience that Sheldon Keefe has with this Maple Leaf team, he's going to be a very successful coach. But it's just not the right fit right now. I think if you stick Sheldon Keefe in a team that's not doing so well and just needs a kick in the ass that could take the team to the next level, I think Keefe is a very brilliant guy to put there because he has experience working with younger players because of the AHL. So this experience and him going to another team potentially and helping build the culture for that team could do wonders for him. And I think he'll always have a job in the NHL. I truly do. You don't put up these kind of numbers and then just never have a job. I just think that it's not the right time for him with this team. They're not clashing properly. And I know that there's a lot of people that love Sheldon Keefe on that team. I'm sure there is. But you just need a new voice in there. And I don't think that this needs to be such a negative thing if this relationship ends. I think that people need to understand that Sheldon Keefe did a lot of good for this team, and that in the biggest moments he just couldn't get it done, and that's not acceptable, but that's not a reason to just target only him. This whole organization needs a slap in the face. They need to get slapped around a little bit, because we need to figure out what it's going to take to get to the next step, and there's just some people that can't be involved in that next step, and I think Sheldon Keefe is one of them, which is really hard to say because I truly love this coach. I think he's a great coach. It's not working out. So if you guys are new here and you agree with me, or if you disagree with me, leave a comment down below. Like this video, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Join the squad. I'd love to have you guys here, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video or stream. Peace.